Hello, everyone. I'm Ben Johnson, and this is the Perpetual Chess Podcast. On Perpetual Chess, I have weekly conversations with the chess world's best players, promoters, and educators about their lives, careers, current projects, and best practices. For more information, go to perpetualchesspod.com. Hello again, everyone. I am here with International Master, Pro Chess League Commissioner, U.S. Chess School founder and sometime teacher, and friend, Philadelphia 76er fan, Greg Shahade. What's going on, Greg?
What's going on? How are you? So many titles.
Oh, yeah, man. You've been a busy guy. Well, not really, but you managed to gather some titles, and I know you've been busy, Greg, getting ready for the Pro Chess League. We are going to talk about a lot of topics, but we're timing this so that it comes out right before the Pro Chess League resumes. So why don't you tell our listeners, I think a lot of us are familiar with how it works, but what are the biggest changes going into this second season?
Okay, so the Pro Chess League, the first year, went really well. We had lots of the top players in the world playing. Magnus Carlsen, Wesley So, Fabiano Caruana, etc. But we had some problems also. And one of the biggest complaints from fans was that it was very hard to find centralized information on the league and to properly follow the games and to know exactly what was going on all the time. So we've created a website, prochessleague.com. We've totally overhauled it. There's a team page for every page, lots of information. I mean, basically, we're just going to have as much information as possible and as quickly as possible. So when a match ends, we want to have a news report on that match, within a half hour or maybe within an hour. I don't want to promise too much. So that's one really big change that everyone's been calling for. And another one is we've kind of, what's it called, retracted the league when you have less teams?
Contracted, I believe.
Contracted, okay. So last year we had 48 teams. It was a bit too many. Some teams were uncompetitive. They had no chance to compete, and the match was over before it began.
Man.
And I feel
It was a little bit mean, but okay.
I'm sorry, but it's true. When one team's rated 2,200 and the other's 2,500, there's no chance to win. So now we have a 32-team league, super competitive. Almost any team can compete with any other team. And the way it works is at the end of the season, the bottom two teams in each division will kind of be removed from the league, and there'll be a qualifying process to get back in. So this keeps it it's just super competitive all around. And I don't know, I just like that all of the teams can dream about winning, and there's no more easy matches for anyone.
Yeah, and there'll be 16 matches on a given game day.
That is correct. And a normal game day, there'll be 4 sessions, 4 different chess.com shows with different hosts, and each show will have 4 matches. So 4 times 4, 16, and it'll go all day from 11 a.m. Eastern to about a little past midnight.
Yeah, pretty exciting stuff. And I know you guys, last year you had some tremendous big shots playing, and this year you've got at least as many, if not more, tremendous big shots. So,
would you like me to name the big shots?
Of course.
All right. Well, we have this guy, Magnus Carlsen. He's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
We have this guy, MVL, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. The new player we have is Vishy Anand. So he's joined the Mumbai Movers.
The resurgent Vishy Anand.
Oh, yeah, this guy's on fire.
Amazing performance.
And he won the Rapid Championship. The Pro Chess League is all rapid play. So,
yeah, it's amazing that such an old man can be so sharp.
Well, he's not that old, is he?
Yeah, I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to guess exactly. I mean, I would guess 46, but, no fact checkers here. So
he's somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I like to not worry about age too much, because I feel once you start thinking about it, it affects.
Oh yeah, you had a tweet about that, but I'm a sports fan. The thing is, okay, I mean, Tom Brady is pushing the boundaries a little bit in football, which we both barely follow. But I mean, Father Time is undefeated. Who are we kidding?
It's true, but I think you can fight against it by not paying any attention to it. I mean, yeah, at some point, I'm not when I'm 105 years old, I'm not going to just gain 300 rating points. Right. But I think that the more you talk about how aging is going to hurt you, the more likely it is to do so.
Right.
So I try to ignore it, even though I know that I know technically, it's true, but like I haven't felt like I've gotten any weaker at chess yet.
Well, you barely play, so that's
true,
a good
like,
trick for not getting weaker.
But like online blitz and stuff.
No, I hear you. Okay, but let's get back to the Pro Chess League.
Oh, sure. So the young Vichy Anand is playing. We have Hu Yifan.
Nice.
She's going to be playing for the Montreal Chess Bras, who lost their top player, Fabiano Caruana, because he jumped ship over to the St. Louis Archbishops last year.
Yeah, that was a bit of a Yankee-esque move, New York Yankee-esque move by the St. Louis Archbishops.
Honestly, that team has a lot of resources. And
yeah.
They're good at getting what they want. I think.
I'm friendly with Isaac Steinkamp, the manager of the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers, and he was lamenting that it's not, I mean, this is true of a lot of sports leagues, but all teams may be created equal, but some are a little more equal than others, right?
It's true. I mean, that's why we have this rating cap, because otherwise certain teams could just buy all the best players and it wouldn't be that interesting. So yeah, they're good, St. Louis, but they're not invincible because there is a 2,500 rating cap.
Okay, so who else is on their team?
Well, they also have Vladimir Fedosiev. I think he
nice.
tied for first in the Rapid and lost the tiebreak.
Yeah, young up and comer. Yeah. I mean, he's already arrived in one sense, but he's still improving.
Yeah, so he's very strong, and he's probably on the team so that when Fabiano is playing like Tata Steel or the candidates, that he'll be ready to be a fill-in, and he's a pretty strong fill-in to have.
Yeah, you could say so.
And then they have like a bunch of just grandmasters on boards 2 and 3. They have Varuzhin Akobian. They have Darius Viers. I'm not sure I pronounced that right. They got Alejandro Ramirez.
Do they still have Wesley So? Or was that the other?
Wesley So is currently not on a roster this year.
Wow.
I'm not sure the reason. Maybe he's just so focused on the candidates that he doesn't want any distractions. I don't know. Maybe he'll sign with somebody later, but at this moment, he's not on that team.
Okay. And how does like the given lineups work? So you have a roster that is has many more players than you'll field in a given match. So what are the rules for like? Can you just play your top 4 players, or how does that work?
Well, you have to have a average rating under 2,500 FIDE
in a given match.
Correct.
Okay, so like the weeks where Fabiano can't make it, they can fill in a higher rated lower board.
Well, not exactly, because there's some things we've done to make it useful to have the best players in the world. Like, let's say it was just 2,500 average rating and that's it. Then you could make an argument that having Magnus Carlsen on your team and then having to put a lower rated player on board 4 is not any better than just having a bunch of 2,500, Right. So we obviously want the best players in the world to play, so we have to do something to combat that so that it's clear that Carlsen is useful. So what we've done is the most anyone's going to count for towards the average rating is 2,700. So like Magnus, he's 28, 50 or 30. He's only going to be considered a 2,700 player. So that means, you're getting a discount. So same thing with Caruana and Fedosiev. They're both above 2,700, which means they're both going to count as 2,700 exactly. So there's actually no difference between them in terms of who else you can have playing.
Okay, so their strongest team would have them both, really, like when the championship comes around, because they both are basically coming at a discount. So where'd you guys?
It's actually not so clear. Actually, just that question's interesting because in their particular case, it's not so clear because they have a strong young female player too, and we also give bonuses to women because we just want more women to be playing in the league.
Who is she? What's her name?
Annie Wang.
Okay.
And she won the world under 16 girls championship in like dominant style. And her rating that we used from like a few months ago, it's like 300 or 200 points lower than her actual current rating.
Okay.
So she's also going to be a really
And does she get a discount on top of that? What is the like?
She gets a lot of discounts basically. Yeah. She, I don't know exactly what her rating is for the league, but she's going to be a valuable player for any team.
But do you remember the formula for like? Oh.
Yeah. I mean, this is what makes St. Louis such a good Pro Chess League team. Every team can have one player in each match who is not from the area at all, right? So Annie Wang, she's not from St. Louis at all. They looked at probably every player in the world, and they were like, who is the best, like lower rated player to put on our team? And they recruited her from California.
Wow.
And I think other teams aren't doing that. They're only recruiting like top GMs.
Huh.
The formula is whatever, like if you're rated like 2,300 as a woman player, it'll just count as 2,200 towards the average rating. And the only reason we do that is because we just want more women in the league, and we want to encourage teams to recruit women, and that's worked. It's obviously worked in this case.
So it's just your rating minus 100 for
Basically.
a woman player? Okay. And I know you guys, you and the team at chess.com have been hard at work trying to think of how to optimize this league, basically, within the resources that you have, trying to make it as entertaining as possible for the viewers. So, like, an idea like that to try to compel, world-class players and women players to play, like, how long does it take from when you have the germ of the idea where we need to incent people to do this to where you settle on the solution?
So you're talking about last year or this year?
This year.
New changes?
I mean, like with a change like that, like you say, okay, you go to Danny Wrench or, the whole Brain Trust or whoever and say like, all right, we need to incent the Magnus Carlsens to play. How do we do that? And how much batting around does it take to come up with an idea like that?
Not too much. I mean, I have this obsession, which I think the rest of the chess world lacks, with incentives.
Mm-hmm.
And like incentivizing everything, and that's the only way to get it done. So like if you want more women to play, you have to give an incentive, or it's just not going to happen. If you want people to look for the best players, you have to create some reason why they're more valuable. So whenever there's an issue, we just create some clear incentive to fix that issue. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
But it's another thing with like draws, like. If you want less draws, you have to create some kind of clear incentive to stop them from happening.
You guys didn't do that, though, did you? I mean, other than the time control.
Oh, no, we didn't. But I mean, I've noticed, like, you can't just ask nicely in general. It's just never going to work.
Okay, so one last point on the Pro Chess League, and by the way, we should tell listeners, I mean, I think we're going to we have to talk offline about when to release this, but the plan is to release it a day or two early so that people can listen to this, get fired up, prepare their excuses for calling in sick from work, and then watch on Wednesday.
Thursday this week.
Thursday? Man, I'm confused.
Well, it's because Tata Steel is running at the same time, and we're hoping that, first of all, we don't want to compete with a tournament of that level, and if we have it on Thursday, who knows? Maybe some of the players in Tata Steel will even play in the match during their off day.
Okay, sounds good. I was saying on Twitter last night, I mean, the smaller scale tournament down in Charlotte with YouTube darling John Bartholomew and some other people playing. And then Tata Steel is going to be interesting. And I'm psyched about the field. Like, it's not just the same 10 people. Gawain Jones and some other folks are, going qualified for the top section. But the top section should be interested. And then we'll have the Pro Chess League. So banner week for watching chess.
It's going to be a lot of chess. Yeah. It's going to go for 2 weeks, Tata Steel, and both times we're synchronizing with their rest day so that whenever there's a day off, you actually don't get a day off. You get to watch us all day. Nice.
Maybe not so nice for my kids, but nice for you guys. All right. So last thing on Pro Chess League, at least I think the last thing, Super Saturday. That's a new edition. What is it?
Oh, it's very exciting. So there is an issue where so you have these 4 divisions. They're based on time zones. And everyone plays everyone else in their division. That was how we did it last year. And then we had one match where you played somebody outside of the division. And it was just really unfair when one team would play a really good team from another division, and then another team would play one of the weakest teams. It totally skews the fairness of the league. So what I wanted to do was think of a way where you could play teams outside of your division, have it be fun and interesting, but also completely fair. And that's what we've done. So let's say you have 2 8-team divisions. They're going to play in one day. You're going to the league works where you play a match against another team, and it's 4-on-4, and everybody plays everyone for a total of 16 games. The Super Saturday will be 8 teams against 8 teams, from the other division, and you play one single 4-game match against each team from the other division in one session. And then we add up everyone's scores at the end, and you get like wins and losses based on how many points you get. So it's just a way to get a chance to play almost every team in the league at least once.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure that some fans will appreciate that it's not all during the week. I mean, I'm sure like people have different schedules, so it's nice to...
Yeah, those are on Saturdays. Actually, one of the matches is on Sundays. But.
Okay, well, that works too. Okay, Greg, anything else we need to know about the Pro Chess League leading into the season?
I could talk about it for hours, but basically you should just all watch it. I think it's going to be super exciting this year. Check out ProChessLeague.com. Look around. There's a lot of information and cool stuff there. You can follow teams' Twitter handles on there also. You can find them very easily.
Okay, yeah, so and I just want to throw in a plea too. I mean, like this is if you're listening to this podcast, presumably you're a chess fan. So, I mean, you know, I think most people here, most listeners would enjoy the Pro Chess League, probably almost all of them. But even if you don't, it's unequivocally good for chess to have this. So, you know, put it on in the background on your computer if you're, you know, even if you're not able to watch, like support it however you can, because, you know, this is a great endeavor. And I've known you since you started the U.S. Chess League back in the day. And to see it reach this scale is an amazing thing. And we want to keep the ball rolling. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. It's exciting stuff. Oh, I do have one more question.
I did have one more thing about the Pro Chess League.
So do I, but you go first.
Yeah, all right. Well, we're actually having an all-star game this year, which we didn't do last year.
Oh, fun.
And I think that's going to be cool. The format of it's going to be really cool. It hasn't been announced yet, but it's going to be fun. And it's like it's going to be about 2 months after the season, and it's going to take like 16 players from the league to play a fun event.
Nice. Yeah, I actually had two questions. So the season, like you guys are just doing one season a year, right?
At the moment, yes.
Okay, because I was a little surprised. It seems a little short, the season. How do you decide on the duration?
Well, chess.com, you know, they're a big site. They do a lot of really cool things, a lot of cool events like the, oh my God, I'm going to forget the name of it. Is it just the Blitz Speed Chess Championships?
Yeah.
And I know they're adding like even more events like the Fisher Random Championships and probably other things I'm forgetting about right now. So like, you know, we're working with them and we're trying to find a way to fit into their schedule as gracefully as possible. And so if we just lasted too long, then they wouldn't be able to devote resources to some of these other super cool events.
Okay.
And so I think like 3 months is good considering like, you know, these top players, they may get fatigued at some point. They have a lot of tournaments to play in. We want to make sure they have energy to play for the duration of the season.
Okay.
So I guess that's my answer. And we're going to have qualifier events too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I know there's such interest. Like, there's so many teams on the outside looking in now. So
yeah.
I think it's good that you guys have created scarcity. And I do think it'll be more compelling. I mean, 16 games a week is a good amount. There's just so much chess when it's actually happening. And one last question. Well, let's just hit this one quickly. I know since we've had a couple of the announcers on Perpetual Chess, I know of a few of them, but can you just rattle off the announcers that you know of?
The main announcers, the first show, forgive me if I get this wrong, but it's Simon Williams and Anna Rudolph. I believe you've had them both on your show, correct?
Two for two. Keep going.
Second show, I'm pretty sure you've had both of these too, is Jen Shahade and Lawrence Trent.
Yep, 4 for 4.
Oh, man. The next show is Danny Wrench and Robert Hess. Have you had Robert?
Yes, I have.
Wow.
Got to listen, you slacker.
I'm sorry. I know you had Danny. Yeah. So 6 for 6. And let's see, the last show is David Pruess and Ben Feingold.
Boom. 8 for 8.
Wow. And then we're going to have some others who are definitely going to do some shows as well. Irina Krush, Jesse Cry. I can't remember. But, like, you know, not everyone's going to be available for every show.
Poor Irina must be feeling quite left out.
She's probably just beside herself right now.
Yeah, it's not for lack of trying, but yeah, we love all of those people have been great guests, and I know, and I've watched them all announce, and they're, you know, chosen for a reason. Oh, and Feingold said he might do some, so I don't know if that's...
Oh, Feingold, yeah, he's one of the main hosts of the Late Late Show.
Okay. The Late Show with Ben Feingold. It's fitting.
Basically, the Pacific time zone.
Okay.
Pacific division, so.
Okay, so we got to move on, Greg. Let's lighten things up a little bit.
Let's do it.
You're such a popular guest. I know that you got very excited when I shared with the Patreon supporters who the most popular guests were, and you were third, and the crowning achievement in your life. So you blew up my spot and retweeted that on Twitter. But I got bad news for you, Greg. You got 0 questions from the supporters. No one cares about you. So either that or you're just such an open book.
I mean, they're probably tired of me because I did that show already, and then I did that preview show last year. So why is this guy on the show again?
Yeah,
but like the first time I was on, you were like a total noob. You didn't know how to do this.
I'm still
now you're like a professional. You have the questions prepared and.
Probably about a 2100 podcast host now, but at least I haven't hit the plateau yet. I'm still getting better, I think.
Okay, you're crushing it.
Okay, well, thank you. You're too kind. I mean, if you listen to the Hess interview, maybe you'd have a different story.
What happened there?
I'm just kidding, but if you don't listen,
I've listened to quite a few of them. It's just like there's a lot.
I know you're a busy guy, and you with your non-working, non-commuting life, you're not the podcast demographic. You don't take public transportation much. You don't have to go to any offices like the rest of us schlubs. So it's not the most natural fit for you. But anyway, okay. Luckily, I was able to scrape some comments from your YouTube page. So while I didn't get any questions, I got some good comments here. And as we know, the best and the brightest gather to comment on YouTube pages. So So here we go from Bizarro the Nihilist.
Bizarro, he's the best.
Okay.
I love Bizarro.
So Bizarro says, why don't you make more Blitz chess videos, Greg? What's wrong with you? Your last 5-minute Blitz video was like a month ago. Come on, Greg. Don't be so lazy. If it's too hard for you, at least make videos in every 4 to 5 days. It shouldn't be so hard. Come on, Greg. Make more Blitz bullet videos. Wake up. You need discipline, Greg, with a whip. Crack, crack, snap. Come on. Play chess. Crack, crack. Entertain me. Snap. How do you defend yourself against this charge?
It's no defense. I deserve the whip.
Yeah, I mean, and you're kind of stagnating. I know you were my very first guest, and we were marveling at your, I think it was 6,000 or 7,000 YouTube followers, and you have 9,000. That's like healthy growth, but I think if you actually made videos, you might have even more.
Well, hold on. I'm gaining people without even doing any work now, so that's, I feel like, really impressive. Mm-hmm. I did have a video I posted where I lost to Christopher Yu.
Right, yeah.
And it got many hundreds of thousands of views, so I was happy about that.
Yeah, he's
people love it when the children beat me for some reason.
And the children are amazing at the chess, and we'll get to that in a second.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So basically, you have no defense. Do you have plans of I'm sure you're pretty busy with the Pro Chess League right now, but do you generally have plans of re-ramping your YouTube videos?
I mean, sometimes I think about it. I'm I like to play chess, and it takes 10 minutes to make a video and play. But somehow, I don't know, it hasn't happened much recently. But I'm sure it'll happen. Sometimes I'll just go through a phase and I'll play 10 games in a row and just spread them out over a few months.
Okay. All right.
But I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Bizarro.
Yeah, he's a frequent commenter?
Yes, and they're always kind of funny.
Nice. Yeah, this one was enjoyable. So nicely done, Mr. Nihilist. All right. And one more comment from a viewer, Mike Goldberg, said,
"Oh, no, not my elbows. Stay away from my elbows."
Wow, you read your comments very closely.
Well, this one's hard to forget.
So he said, Greg is noticeably aging now, male pattern baldness turning into regular baldness, and his elbows are weakening.
I mean, I'm just so obsessed with the fact that he mentioned that my elbows are weakening. I don't know what that means or why it's a thing that he would think, oh, now I'm going to type his elbows are weakening. So, there's so many things you could say other than talking about my elbow weakness.
Yeah, well, a lot of people came to your elbow's defense. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and generally, with all this CrossFit, people could call you many things, but you keep not getting weaker physically.
Yeah, that's another thing about age too. It's I'm getting stronger physically at this age, so that's why I'm kind of skeptical about the aging thing. And
did you just turn 38 or 39?
39.
Okay, getting up there. Okay, all right. So I think we're done with the YouTube topic. U.S. Chess School. So what have been the latest developments in the U.S. Chess School?
Man, the U.S. Chess School is just it's insane these days what's going on in the chess world. Every year, it's like there's this just this like exponential growth of chess strength in very young kids, and it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And at some point, it's just like I don't know what to do. Their kids are just so strong, and we only have so much space in our camps for them. It's like the kids that we can't invite to our camps, like 7 years ago, would have been like, obviously we would want them in our camps, and they would be like one of the first people we would invite. And now it's like there's no space for them because the kids are so strong. I mean, you got an 8-year-old right now. You understand 8 years old is young, right?
Pretty young, yeah.
And he's 2,100. Like, I don't, it's like almost impossible. But I mean, this kid is really strong.
So what are these kids doing? Like, I mean, we've talked a lot about the changes in technology, but do you have a sense, like making chess training easier, but do you have a sense of like exactly how they're spending their time?
Yes. Kids are getting smarter somehow, like with their study habits. I mean,
so what's
there's a bunch of kids that impress me.
Well, forget the. I mean, obviously, these kids would love to be shouted out, and feel free to do that. But like, what are they doing? Like, is it tactics training? Are they reading? I mean, I'm sure it's a little of both. But is there one predominant habit that you feel like they have that leads to them exploding?
Well, tactics training is good up to a certain point, but like once you're past 2,000, there's so much more you have to do. So I think it's just like total immersion into chess. Like, I'm going to name a few kids because that'll help me give specific examples. And the ones that like have the really special chess habits, they're always like one of the very, very top ones. Because you see a room of like super talented kids at these schools, and there's always like one or two whose study habits stand out. And then you look at the rating list, they're always like number 1, 2, or 3. So I feel like there's an obvious correlation. One thing is, so there's a kid, Eddie Tian. He is number 2, I think, just right behind Christopher Yu. And we had him in our camp 2 years ago, or maybe a year and a half or something. And, you know, he was pretty good at that time. He knew some stuff, but not like everything. And then I had him in a camp like more recently, and he just knew like so many famous games. Like, I would show a game, and he would be like, oh, I think I've seen this. It's blah, blah, blah. And nobody else in the room had seen it. Huh. And, you know, like, so they just devour the information. Like the Kasparov's books, for example. I actually forget the name. Oh, Great Predecessors. Like the really top ones, they're going to have read every single one of those. Especially like the early ones. They study many hours a day. They have a good feel for what's important. I'm not sure how they get it. I think the coaches these days are really smart. There's a lot of high quality coaching going around, and they kind of guide students towards the things they should be doing. And the ones who are super talented and really motivated, they just do all the right things on their own. I mean, there's this kid, Eric Yuhan Lee from California. I think he's ranked number 3 in the country. He's like 10 years old, 2,100-ish or something. We'll have a chess camp. And during the break, when everyone's playing Bug House, you know what he's doing?
Playing basketball.
Close. He gets out some chess book and is in the hallway studying this book. And I'm like, what are you doing? And, you know, this is why he's great. It's just like they just have this endless thirst for like more and more knowledge. And, you know, at that age, you just soak it all up. And I don't even know how some of these kids are getting so good. These are just examples I can see with my own eyes. Because when you're in a class and you're showing a game and there's like 1 or 2 people who just clearly have more chess kind of like culture, knowledge, and stuff like that, you realize that, you know, there's a reason why they're number 1 or number 2 in the country. So, did I answer that question well?
No, that was really good. I mean, it makes sense, crazy. You know, in all the like talent versus work debates. I think it's always important to point out that talent, you know, it might be a prerequisite, but it's work. Like, yes. Beyond that, like, work is just so important to just put the time in, and there's no substitute for just reading books. There's tried and true formula for learning to excel at something, as John Donaldson just discussed about Bobby Fischer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, definitely talent is important. I think I haven't done any big studies, but I have a feeling it's important. I think loving chess, like really, really loving it, super important. Being happy to work on it and just read and play all day. You know, if you really enjoy that, like if you don't do it because like you're supposed to, but you do it because every moment of it is like fascinating to you, kind of like the book Flow, which I believe you've read.
Yes. Yeah.
If studying chess puts you in that flow mindset where you kind of like forget about everything else that's happening, then you're in a very good situation as a chess player. Also, money is really important. I think like it's hard if you don't have the resources that other children have, unfortunately. But
has that been an issue in terms of like the kids that you invite? Like, have there been kids who would love to come but they can't afford it? Like, can't afford to fly somewhere?
I wouldn't say it's that. It's more that it's hard to get to the level where you would even get invited if you have serious financial problems.
Yeah, I know that's something that Simon Williams was talking about the British chess scene back when I had him on, and he mentioned that he felt like chess was becoming kind of an unequal game, like because it's a bit of an arms race with how good kids are becoming, and it's just like if you don't have a personal coach and you don't have the resources to travel and play all the time, it's becoming harder to keep up. Do you agree with that?
I think if you want to think about being like world champion or like something like that, then probably it really helps to have a lot of resources as a kid. But you can still, of course, be very strong in any situation. There are kids right now who I'm quite sure don't have, you know, that much money, or their parents don't have that much, who are doing very well, ranked even like the top 5 or 10 for their age in the country. But I think there's a difference between being like to be number one and to be like a world championship type level talent. I think you do need those resources, or at least it's very, very helpful. I don't want to say need. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad but true. Hopefully if chess can continue to grow, maybe we can get some sort of foundation or fellowship going where like the kids who show early promise get a little more support.
Tough though, because part of showing that promise is like you just don't show it out of thin air, you know what I mean? So it's like hard to identify which child is like a special talent until they've already used their resources and their parents' finances to show you. If that makes any sense.
No, for sure.
It's like really difficult problem. Like I don't know how the U.S. chess school can exactly solve this problem because, does it help to invite somebody who doesn't have that many resources to a camp where everyone's currently 200-300 points higher rated, even if they may have more like a lot of raw talent? I don't know if
it probably helps helpful. It helps their chess for sure.
Sure, but I'm not sure it's like the solution. I don't know that. I think it's not quite our area that we can address so easily.
Okay, well, if anyone listening has any ideas, shout out us on Twitter, send me an email, whatever. But yeah, it's an issue I think chess people need to keep an eye on.
I just wanted to bring it up. I want to acknowledge that it is an issue.
And generally, there's all this literature about the middle class thinning out, whatever, like everything being done with computers where like if you're not a knowledge worker, there's not as much space. And I think that can trickle down to the next generation where like if you're the child of a knowledge worker, you have plenty of resources, but if you're not, you might not. But anyway, it's good to at least be aware of the problem. So Greg, the first time we had you on, I'm going to reveal a little known fact. We left about 20 minutes on the cutting room floor because we were both so terrible at podcasting. Me in particular, that, we just let it go a little bit too long and decided that less was more. And that's actually the only podcast interview where I've made significant cuts. But
oh, wow. I really messed up. Huh?
But one of the subjects that you may or may not have had a rant left on the cutting room floor was FIDE. So we'll start gently with FIDE. Who should be the next FIDE president?
Is there like people running right now?
No, not yet. I think it's relatively soon though.
I would say that I'm probably not the most qualified to answer that question.
So you're not going to
I don't know. Well, I'm not going to run. No, but I don't know. like who would be good. I know the current situation. Should I be answering what I think about the current one, or do you have a follow-up?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, what we seem to have in FIDE in general is kind of like this battle between money and kind of principle, if that makes sense. So, like, they are bringing a lot of money into chess, for sure. Like, top players are getting paid, I think, a lot more than they were like 10, 20 years ago. But at the same time, there are a lot of kind of like ethical or moral compromises happening that we have to decide whether it's worth it.
Okay, so I mean, you might as well. There's the clear recent example of this, so you might as well name it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, like, Saudi Arabia, the FIDE Rapid and Blitz Championship is, of course, the most recent example. I assume that's what you were referring to?
Yes, and I think okay. Most listeners will be familiar with the backstory. But so they hosted a tournament there, but there were certain preconditions where like people from Israel couldn't play, and it's not the most tolerant of societies. So there was a lot of protest about it, but they also had a big prize fund, and it was only announced a month before the event was scheduled, and everyone's like, what's happening? There's no details. Yeah. So clearly they, one could infer that they were not getting the funding they desired, and then this funding materialized, but it's not in the ideal place.
Yes. It sounds great. I mean, there's like so many things we could talk about, but we can talk about that one for now. And it's basically this like clear example of like, do you want the money, or do you want to say my principles are more important? It bothers me that players from Israel can't play. No amount of money can make up for that, and so I'm not going to play. Like it's easy for me, who's not playing, to say what I would think or what I would do. I mean, I think I wouldn't play if I was like really good. But it's always easy for anyone watching on the sidelines to say what they would do.
Right.
But I really respect somebody like, for example, Hikaru Nakamura, who put his money where his mouth was. Like, a lot of people played and they still kind of like badmouthed the tournament in the sense that there were those restrictions on Israeli players, but they played anyway. They cashed their checks. But Hikaru, he refused to play. He said why, and I think,
and right away he spoke up about it.
Yeah, like no hesitation. And he's good at rapid. He's good at blitz. He could have won.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, so we don't know who the real champion. Well, I don't want to take away people's championships, but I mean, Hikaru obviously could have done very well.
Yeah, and Anna Muzicek, I hope I pronounced her name right, but I probably didn't.
That's why I didn't want to say her name, because I was worried. I was worried I would pronounce it wrong.
I'm always willing to mispronounce someone's name. But obviously, I don't know everyone's financial situation. I know Hikaru does well for himself, but one could reasonably guess that the money probably meant more to her than Hikaru, and she still said, no, I'm not going. So, yeah, hats off to her.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't want to say that the people who went are like wrong or anything like that to have gone and played. I mean, almost everyone did play, but I still want to give credit to those who didn't, because I think it's a nice, brave. I mean, it's just it's good to say that the money, to show that your principles matter more than money. I think is a noble thing and should be celebrated. So congratulations to those two and others who did. I think there are others as well who didn't do it, or maybe just lesser profile than those two.
So do you think would it have been better to not have the tournament? Because that seems like that was basically the choice.
I don't know. Man. I lean on the side of kind of, this is ridiculous. You can't just ban like a whole country of really strong players from playing.
I mean, you're a renowned social justice warrior, so. Yeah,
but I mean, like, on the other hand, it would take a lot of money out of the chess community. I mean, I think it's better, but I don't want to be naive about it.
Which is better?
Also, to not have a tournament in a place where certain countries are restricted from playing.
Okay,
but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
sorry that I.
It's good to acknowledge gray areas. I also I don't consider it a slam dunk in either direction. I personally think it's better to have it, and of course, I liked that people spoke out right away and that they stood up for their principles and refused to play. And even what Magnus did, where he played and then said, we've got to do better next year. Like, I think, and because next year, presumably, there's more lead time, although I think there's like a 3-year contract. So, But I mean, they can, like, there's more time to have a public conversation about it and see what happens. Okay, anything else? I mean, you touched about how this is sort of a microcosm for like broad issues of FIDE. So, anything else about FIDE?
There's been lots of corruption with the elections. I mean, the way the elections are run, how every country gets exactly one vote. The issue in the FIDE World Cup with Kovalyev getting yelled at by, Asma Parshvili. It's just so much stuff like this. It's just very weird because somehow they bring huge money into chess. Like people constantly say that chess doesn't get respect because it's like tournaments are held in like weird places sometimes. But I actually think chess is getting the most level of at least like respect and money that it's ever gotten before. Like it's at its peak. I mean, like so many tournaments, they're high level with big prize funds. And they're kind of regular now. Like the candidates always happens. Like there was a time when people didn't know if the candidates was going to happen, what the format was going to be. We kind of have a system going now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the leadership is corrupt. So it's just frustrating because like I don't like that type of like situation. But everyone's kind of just living with it and, living under this kind of leadership that doesn't do a lot of the things the right way. I don't know what the alternative would bring because there hasn't been one in 20 years, so we haven't even got a chance to see it.
Yeah, it's a tricky issue. I mean, basically, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it would take someone pretty high profile with a lot of resources to even think about like changing the leadership structure. So
I mean, I would like a change for sure. The reason why I'm like scared to say it too closely is because I'm like then messing with the future of a lot of chess players. Like
right.
So it doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
It affects all these players who might suddenly lose a lot of money. So that's like the only reason why I'm like hesitant to say I definitely support this or that. Theoretically, I do. I want somebody in charge of FIDE who's like kind of more transparent, who raises money from less sketchy sources, if that makes sense. But again, it doesn't affect me personally, so it's like I want to be careful before I say something. Because like when I talk about politics in the United States, everything actually affects me personally. Or people.
Some people would beg to differ about that, but
you know what I mean. Like, yeah. I guess it's similar in the sense there are some things that affect other people a lot more than me.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, chess pros are like your brethren. So I get that. Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we'll leave it there. I mean, we don't. Certainly, I don't, and you don't either have the final answers unless you're actually going to run for FIDE president.
Should I run? Would you support me on your show?
Oh yeah, you'll get that huge perpetual chess backing.
Can I get Bazarov as my running mate?
Yeah, he's got to be your VP. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So chess improvement, Greg, huge topic. I mean, one thing I wanted to ask you about the U.S. Chess School is like. You have so many. I mean, you do a lot of the teaching, but you've had so many chess personalities and legendary educators come in, chess educators. Mm-hmm. So, is there any like standout lesson or presenter that you would like to highlight without like making everyone else seethe with jealousy that they weren't mentioned?
Well, everyone's really good in their own way. I mean, I could just name all of our coaches.
No, come on. What about something that resonated with you? I mean, a lot of these guys are like stronger than you. So is there anything that they...
Whoa, let's not get carried away.
Not physically, not, their elbows might be stronger, but I don't know about their chest.
Well, I really liked... I always really was a fan of Kaidanov because, he has a very logical approach to the game, very systematic. I really like how he talks about time trouble. Usually at all of his camps, he'd give like at least one lecture on it.
What does he say?
Well, there's just a bunch of rules, like how one of them he likes to talk about is you should never spend more than 15 minutes on a move. At that point, you're just kind of like wasting time thinking about nothing. And I'm sure there are even some exceptions to that, but for the most part, like if you're spending more than 15 minutes on a move, you're making a mistake. That always stuck with me because it's really easy to remember. It's just like a simple rule that you can say in one sentence.
No, the heuristics are helpful for sure.
I think, yeah, I mean, honestly, I think like these one sentence kind of chess rules are like some of the most valuable things you can get out of.
Can you think of any other examples?
I can think of a ton. I can think of another one he said that kind of stuck with me because it's only one sentence long and I can't like pay attention for like 3 sentences.
Uh-huh.
So it's like when there's a pawn on c4 and d4, like let's say you're white and then black has a pawn on c5 and d5.
Right.
So like, both pawns are like attacking each other. He said basically there's like a Russian rule that you should always capture one of them if it's your move.
Wow.
I don't... Just because otherwise the opponent's going to get to choose which to capture. And usually it's not best to keep the tension in that case. And you should capture one of the pawns. So like these rules are very nice. I mean, and obviously there are exceptions. When you get to a certain level of chess strength, you take the rule and then you think, okay, does it apply here or is there an exception?
Yeah, that's sort of the founding thesis of John Watson's writing.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, basically the idea is the rules are important. I really, really think they're important.
Any others you can think of?
Well, from specific lessons or just rules that I have in my head? Rules
that you have.
Oh, I have.
We all want shortcuts, so
I have like a billion of them. Okay, so let's say you're white and you have a pawn on h5 and your opponent has like a fianchetto bishop, like h7, g6, f7 pawn setup.
Uh-huh.
Generally in that situation, it's best to, and like say the king is castled there too, so you're kind of like attacking. I think it's generally best to delay capturing or pushing the pawn, unless, you get something really beneficial out of it. Just hanging it there, like just leaving it there as long as possible is really tough for the opponent to deal with because they always have to worry about you capturing it. They always have to worry about pushing to h6. But at the same time, they have trouble capturing you on h5 because it like messes up their structure and their king side. So I've seen a lot of games like this, and sometimes when I show these positions to kids, they will immediately start like thinking about whether they should start making these captures or pushing the pawn before they really have to. Okay. So that's one.
That was more than one sentence, I'd like to point out.
It was, no, but the explanation was more than one sentence. Yeah. But the rule is just one sentence.
Okay.
That when you have that pawn there, you should kind of try to keep the tension because it's tough for your opponent.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure I have a billion more.
I mean, I grabbed a couple from, or at least one from you did like one of those Twitter things where you said 70 things or whatever.
Oh, tell me which ones that you grabbed.
Okay. You said learning most theoretical endgames is a waste of time, except really common ones like Lucina, Philidor. General rules are more important.
Yeah, so like a general rule is like knight endgames are similar to king and pawn endgames. Like that's a really important rule. Knowing how important king activity is in the knight endgame is like super valuable.
But not so into the table bases.
The table bases are kind of, yeah. Like there's a position that we went over in our recent U.S. chess school with Armin Ambartsumian coaching, and it was a theoretical position from Dvoretsky's endgame manual. It was like rook and 4 against rook and 3, where white has the passed a pawn.
I'm falling asleep already.
Sorry. But, you got the extra pawn on the a file, and you got like, your 3 pawns. Black has their 3 pawns. And there was an odd number of players, so I played against one of the kids. So they couldn't beat me, and then we, like, with the extra pawn, then we switched sides. And, like, this position was in the book, and I had some vague idea of the general idea of how to win it. Now... And so I went ahead. I didn't know exactly, though. So I was like, I knew it was kind of the idea. I didn't know exactly why. But it made sense to me. And the point is, like, just kind of knowing the general was much more important than knowing exact moves there. Like, I knew I had to activate my king in a certain way, but, like, I just couldn't really remember the exact details.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a perfect example or not. But just like generally, like just knowing like a very small amount of something is much more practical than like kind of memorizing some table-based
that's
type thing.
Contra to the saying that a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing.
No. I mean, yeah, it could also be a dangerous thing. But I'm kind of strong enough where I'm not going to do something really stupid because I think
you're
I remember
not dogmatic. Something.
Yeah. Another example of what I mean by that is like just general endgame ideas, like do not hurry. Like, if you have a good position, you're up a pawn, like to not like, start rushing and stuff. So that's totally not theoretical at all. It's just kind of like a general idea to like be patient. And that is more important than knowing how to maybe mate with like two knights against a pawn in this like theoretical endgame.
Right. Okay. One more of your tweets. This is not rule related, but you said Lasker's world record for being world champion for the longest period of time is a complete farce. Ducked Kappa and Rubinstein. This is like a Donald Trump tweet in the way it's phrased. Ducked Kappa and Rubinstein for 10 years. Bad. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't say bad.
You didn't say bad, but you said the rest of it. So anything to elaborate on that? I was impressed with your chess history knowledge and your dormant key moments in chess history series.
Thank you.
And I meant to research Lasker so that I wouldn't embarrass myself in this segment, but it didn't happen. So
let me tell you something about Lasker, by the way. Lasker, incredibly strong, amazing player. So I'm not trying to say like Lasker is some kind of like weak player. Like the guy was a legend. His chess was at a level that nobody had ever seen before for like until Capablanca and like Rubinstein arrived. But and there was like he didn't play a match against any of the top players. He kept playing Janowski and Marshall, and it's just like, okay, you can't just be world champion. We can't treat that record seriously if he literally never played them. Like I think what did he play Capablanca, like 21 or 1918 or something?
Okay. All right,
I think 1921.
Before we continue, I have to ask you. So our chess development, like people who heard our other interview know that we grew up together. I was a year ahead of you in school, and there was a brief period where you didn't just crush me in chess every game, but then like you got stronger than me. But one thing I'm curious about is like all that information you have about Lasker. Like, did you learn that in high school, like when you were getting better than me at chess, or did you learn it subsequently, like as a teacher? Because I just don't know that much about Lasker, and I don't know if it's like what the genesis of that is.
That's a really good question, because I think if I knew it when we were in high school, that I would have been one of the I would be like playing in the U.S. Championship now, or like at some point I would have been regularly one of the top players in the country. I think I didn't study as hard as I could have because I didn't care about like stuff like that. This is all recent because I'm teaching the U.S. chess school. I need to have knowledge.
Yeah, and in fact, I think on our first podcast, you I can't remember the exact conversation, but I know that a couple months later, you texted me and you were like, by the way, I was totally wrong about like underestimating how important it is to know chess history for a young player.
Sorry, what did I say?
I can't remember what we said on the initial podcast, but then you came back later and said that you felt like you downplayed how important it is to know chess history, and that, like you're saying now, if you had known then what you know now, you would have been a much better player.
Well, it's not even just about knowing it. It's about caring so much about chess that you need to know it. Like, that's the level of, it's just kind of like correlated. Like, just knowing these facts is not going to make you strong. It's like anyone listening to the show, if you go up like and read Lasker's biography, you're not going to gain 100 points. The point is you have to be so obsessed with chess that the idea of you just want to know everything.
Right.
And recently I wanted to because I thought it would make me a better teacher to like be able to show Lasker's games and to know stuff about him, or Steinitz' games, or any of these old famous players like Rubinstein, Capablanca. But as a kid, I didn't care. I was just like, I just want to play chess.
Right. And
I think that's the difference between somebody like me who's very good and somebody who's like world class or great. They just need to know everything.
Okay, that's a good insight. All right, Greg. So chess book recommendations. I gave you a warning.
Yes,
beforehand.
I have a lot. I didn't think about that much, but there's some that I can just pop up off the top of my head.
Okay, let's have them.
I bet you could even guess the authors I'm going to come up with because I feel like they pop up a lot. I'm going to start with Dvoretsky. And I'm going to come up with specific books by these people also. But Dvoretsky is great, wonderful, wonderful chess coach. Like totally revolutionized the world of chess training.
And you worked with him a bit.
I did. I had like I think two private lessons with him, and it's like a really tough. It's interesting working with him because like as a child in the United States, you kind of like think you're like God's gift to everything when you're like highly ranked.
Well, yeah, you come like we're basically a previous generation, and you
exactly.
and there were no. I mean, you were basically the strongest. You and Dean Ippolito and a couple others were like the strongest American-born chess players of our generation. Like it was much more rare then.
Yeah, and it's like when you work with him, he had some issues with Josh Waitzkin, and I can kind of feel where they came from because I loved lessons with him. I thought they were awesome. He always told me I was talented, but clearly I was nothing special to him. Like, he'd seen so many players who were more talented, more skilled than me. And at that time in my life, there was probably not that many coaches I would train with who had seen so many more talented players and more stronger ones. So I feel like, he's never going to give you like that kind of adulation that you're going to get from a standard coach then when, you're one of the best players in the country. And, you could kind of feel that. Like I would show him some game and, he would tell me the things that were wrong with it. I would I would want to show him some game where I won, so he'd be very impressed. But, of course, he wanted to see the game where I didn't play that well. And what's interesting is I just showed him, as far as I can remember, one game I ever played. And the lessons he taught me from just that one game, I still remember them today. And I can't really say that about any other...
What was the game?
Any other coaches. It was a game I played against Rogelio Barcenia in New York. And there was like this typical positional theme that I just had no idea about. And he was just like, oh yeah, this is a standard idea. You just do this, this, and this. And I was like, okay. But then as I got, and I didn't even like kind of register it then. But as time went on, I was like, oh, you know what? This is like the same thing Dvoretsky talked to me about. Like sometimes I feel like there's like a delayed learning process where you only realize how valuable something was like long after the fact. So, I mean, I just feel like he was probably just a really good coach for something like that. Because, he like targeted that one thing. And I think a lot of coaches are better at that now. I think they've learned from him. Mm-hmm. People are just more systematic. They know what to target when they analyze a game. Like they'll find the moment that like is the kind of thing that will come up over and over again, and they'll pinpoint it to their student. So I think he has influenced a lot of people. And I just want to say before I get too far along just talking about how great he is, I want to pick a specific book of his that I like.
Okay.
It's he has these two series. And I think School of Future Champions is definitely the best one to start with. The other one's kind of like really heavy reading. And School of Future Champions, book 1, I think it's Secrets of Chess Training, but I could be wrong about the exact title. But it's the first book, and there's just so many great chapters in that book. I mean, they're just like revolutionary at the time, and even today you won't find anything like them. Like there's this one book where he talks about these two women players that were playing in a world championship candidates match, and before the games he pinpoints all of their strengths and all of their weaknesses, like with like little codes. Like he talks about what they are, and then after every move he kind of like writes like whether it's he'll like say this is one of the strengths of the player. And then he'll pinpoint one of their weaknesses. And you can just see it in the game. You can kind of see like their strengths and weaknesses in action. I thought that's like an amazing chapter.
Okay, good stuff.
But just the book in general is great. And all of his books are great, but that's my favorite one. The Endgame manual is, of course, very useful also.
And I know you draw on his material a lot for your lessons.
Totally.
I mean, a couple.
Totally, yeah. It's a real shame that he passed away about a year ago, maybe, was it? Because he still had so much to offer. Like, he was not done. He was not done at all.
All right, what else? What other books?
Well, we got to go with Jacob Agard, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't come
Has
on...
anyone ever mentioned him on the show?
You can't come on the podcast without naming his books, so...
But I'm going to just pick one of his that I think was like the best one. Because it's the one that I definitely got the most out of, in the sense that when I teach students, I can use these positions a lot. And it's his positional playbook. Okay. The more recent one. So what is it called? Grandmaster Preparation Positional Play? That's probably the name.
Okay.
And it's just mostly a bunch of diagrams for solving, but I thought they were like a really good level for the typical like decent to strong chess player. Because like what I would do in this book.
What rating roughly?
Well, up to me, but like anywhere under, gosh, I don't know. Like anyone can get something out of it. Like 1800 would surely get something out of it, but I feel like 2000 to 2200, it's like the 2000 to 2400 is like the perfect zone for that book. What I did in that book and some other books is I literally solved every puzzle in the book, and I kept track of my statistics. So I know how many I got right.
Was this during your brief tournament comeback?
Yeah, that was more when I was like trying to prepare material for my camps. Because okay. I feel like there's some books where the puzzles are too difficult. Like if there's a book where I can't even solve half the puzzles, it's too difficult for most people. Like, you know, it's just like, why do you need that if you're 2200 if I can't even solve them? Like, you need something a little more
Can you think
achievable.
Of a book where that happened?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's also an Agard book. So I'm not saying it's a bad book at all. I'm just saying, like, you should start with positional play. Because that one I solved about 80%, I think.
Mm-hmm. Which one was even more advanced?
And then it was basically the continuation of positional play, which was strategic play. I think he even mentions at some point it's kind of like a continuation of the book, but like a bit more difficult. And I think I solved like under 60%, but above 50. I can't remember the exact number. And I generally feel like that's for most people, that's like means the puzzles are too difficult, but I still think there is a lot of instructive ones. Okay. And you know, he doesn't have to write books that are like super easy, of course.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying anything bad about it at all. I was just curious if anyone, like, you know, the 3% of listeners who are stronger than you or whatever it is.
Yeah,
like they might.
I mean, maybe somebody else would who's lower rated than me would do better than me. Also, I don't know, but I think like knowing those numbers is useful, like that I just gave, like, because obviously nobody else has probably done that.
Right.
So 80% for positional play and like 55 for strategic play means that, you know, now you have a pretty good idea what level they're geared towards.
Yeah. Okay. Any other book recommendations before we move on?
Yes, definitely. Johan Helston.
You recommended that to me. That's a good book.
What's it called? Mastering Chess Strategy? Is that it?
Oh man, I'm gonna butcher it too. It's over on my shelf somewhere, but I can't see it from here.
I think it's Mastering Chess Strategy. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but it's a book about like strategical play, and it has like 500 puzzles at the end or something. And these puzzles, I didn't do what I did with Agard's book, where I tried to solve them all and kept track of my statistics. But I would say I probably would have gotten like 80% in that book also, which is, I think, like the perfect number, because it means like what do I mean? When I get 80%, usually like half of them are just automatic to me. They're like, I see them and I know instantly what the answer is because it's just a pattern. And so it means there's a lot of patterns that people need to know in these books. Okay. So that's why I really recommend that book.
And it is also Mastering Chess Strategy.
Okay. Wow. So, I mean, you know, I probably could come up with more books if I thought, but those are the three.
That's good enough. And I don't know, I like the Helston book too, and I don't think anyone's recommended that, and the Dvoretsky stuff was really good, so I think people will enjoy that. So, Greg, we're winding up. The main thing I want to do from here is I've been, as a podcast host, I've been endeavoring to draw more stories out of people, and I was thinking, like, I'm in the unique position of, like, you know, having been alongside you for a lot of our lives. So more so than other people, I was able to think about this myself. So one thing that I thought of was that you played Garry Kasparov in a simul many, many years ago. So
yes.
Like, how much do you remember about that? One thing I remember, I'll say, is like...
I remember a lot.
Okay, cool. So, all right.
What were you going to remember?
Well, the one thing I want to say is, obviously it's a big deal, like, thinking about it now, but... there was something about this was like the internet was in its infancy, and to me it felt like a much bigger deal because like chess superstars like that seemed more ephemeral, like they seemed so out there. So to be in the room with Kasparov, like I went with you to the simul, it was an amazing thing. And obviously, like if I ever got to have him on the podcast, that would be like the thrill of a lifetime. But nonetheless, he doesn't feel as inaccessible as he did at the time. So anyway, what are your memories of playing him in the simul?
First of all, I remember how you helped me with my wardrobe. do you remember this?
I don't remember this, no.
Okay, well, I was going to go wearing like shorts and a T-shirt, and the T-shirt was like one of these blue champion shirts. And you were making a joke about like, I'm just going to wear just a random shirt that says champion on it. So eventually I remember we found like some kind of jacket or something more dignified that I could wear. And then I did that. So what I remember was, okay, so, when people are young, some people have like mental weaknesses. Like I remember like I had this issue with simuls where like I had a big ego. Maybe I still do. I don't know. But when I was young, I definitely had one. I'm like, I don't care if this guy's world champion. He can't beat me in a simul. Who the hell does he think he is? Which is like completely insane, of course,
right.
Because he's Kasparov. But in my mind, I was like, "There's no reason why this guy should beat me." And I know that like, this is a really stupid thing, but I also had a simul with somebody weaker than him who beat me, and I just couldn't believe it. I mean, weaker than Kasparov is like everyone.
Yeah, who was it?
It was Kavalek.
Okay.
He came to UMBC to play like a training simul against us, and I was like, "Is this a joke? Like, really? Like, who is Kavalek?" I couldn't understand why they would think this guy had any chance to beat me in a simul, and he crushed me. I was like, okay, well, I just wasn't, underestimated him or something. But that was, this is like just a failing of my weakness, and maybe this is one of the things that held me back, is I had these kind of thoughts like this. But yeah, against Kasparov, I played a C3 Sicilian. I played this move that. I played this line that I thought was like maybe slightly better for me. But he just somehow slowly outplayed me, and I was like, damn, I lost.
And what was refresh my memory about the format of the simul? Like, I'm
sorry, that was not a very good this portrayal of the game. He was playing 8 players.
This is an audio-only podcast, so you don't need to like rattle off the moves or anything.
Yeah,
but just paint a picture.
I have more to say about though, because he contacted me about the game later. So,
okay.
There were 4 players on our team. There was like 2 IMs, maybe me and an FM, and then he also played like 4 local young players who were not that strong. So he's playing 8 of us at once. The 4 players, I think, he didn't have to put much attention to them, but us 4 at least were title players, so he had to really focus. And I think it was a clock simul as well.
No joke.
But yeah, after the fact, he would talk to me on ICC sometimes, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. He would come on as a guest and speak to me.
Wow.
Which I have actually not talked to that many people about. For various reasons he would do this. Like, he was a big Bulls fan, for example.
Huh.
Oh, no. He wasn't. He wanted the Bulls to lose. He was, the Pacers were trying to beat the Bulls one year.
Yeah.
And he would come on to me and tell me how, he kind of wanted them to win. And I think in my mind at the time, I thought it was like he was almost competitive with Michael Jordan. It's because they were like both the best in the world.
Right.
At something. And if Jordan lost, then like, Kasparov was like the undisputed king.
Huh.
But yeah, he told me, like, he asked me, like, why did I just play for a draw in our game? And I was like, I wasn't really trying to play for a draw. I just didn't know what else to do.
Right.
So yeah, it was interesting.
That's an awesome story. I didn't know he was an NBA fan. So he and Carlson both.
Oh yeah, he was.
So listeners, you got to watch the NBA if you want to be world champion.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from that story?
I don't think so. I think there's one issue where, like, when you look at the game online, somehow the moves are entered wrong. Like, the game got in the database.
Right.
And there's, like, a mistake in the notation. I think I figured out how to fix it, but I'm not sure. It's just a memory I have. I may be wrong.
Okay. Well, maybe now's the time to issue a correction. Do you have any other stories about like brushes with, chess legends or any other like standout experiences from your varied chess career?
God, I probably do.
I didn't prep you for this.
Yeah, if you did, I would probably have them.
Okay, well, you'll be back in another year, so.
Oh, really? Do I get a yearly show?
Yeah, that's that for listeners wondering. My basic, I think I might have said this before, but that's going to be my basic goal with returning guests is try to space it out a year if I don't get too lazy with chasing people down.
Okay. That sounds good. I feel like this show is a little different than last. I feel like last year I was like a crazy ranting lunatic.
Yeah, there's some of that. Yeah.
And I feel like this year more reserved,
Yeah. No, but it was good. I mean, we touched everything, I think. I mean, I have a few goofy subjects that I think we'll leave alone. Seems that people primarily like it when we talk about, I would say people rank it 1, talk about chess, 2, talk about life. But anything beyond that, I mean, obviously life is a broad category, but they don't want to hear about the niches for the most part. So
they don't want to know about my CrossFit?
CrossFit, Bitcoin, poker, I think we're going to leave them all alone.
Unbelievable.
But maybe next time people can let me know if I'm wrong. Okay, so obviously, Greg, what are you going to be doing during the Pro Chess League? Like, all right, just wrapping this up. Like, you are. I know Wrench always like when he's announcing. It's like he's got the earbud in his ear and people yelling at him, and he's trying to like he does a great job like covering the event while like being the sort of orchestrator. Is that what's going to be happening with you too?
I mean, I'll be doing a lot of things during making sure the website's up to date, just making sure there's no like weird issues. Stuff happens like people's internet goes bad or somebody can't log in.
Should we touch on? Should we touch on the cheating? Everyone's always concerned about the cheating.
Yeah, I mean, we do have more systems in play this year with cheating. Well, one thing that's always tricky with cheating is like chess.com has a really sophisticated system against cheating. I've seen it. I even know how to interpret the results now and everything. But literally anytime you say anything about it, like even the slightest thing, you help the cheaters somewhat. Right. And this should be obvious, but it doesn't satisfy people. So it's kind of tough when you talk about it on like these forums. Like I come on, I'm saying like, I love their site. I love their cheating system, but I'm not going to say anything. I signed a non-disclosure and I really don't want people to get away with cheating. I don't want them to know anything.
Yeah.
And it's hard because like, how are they going to trust us? Right. Like we could just be saying that because we don't have any system at all. And we're just kind of, I don't know. Do you know what I mean, though? So it's like a really hard discussion to have. But I really believe in chess.com. They have full-time employees whose only job, that's all they do, is catch cheaters. And this year, every player is going to be in camera during their games, whereas in last year, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I mean, that alone, that's huge.
Yes. So we're, because we've contracted the league, we have more resources available to like kind of put a camera on everyone during the matches. So like that's going to be huge. And I really believe in our anti-cheating team. In our qualifier, for example, we caught 0 people cheating, which means that we believe that nobody cheated, like based on what our reports tell us. And we don't see any reason to think anyone cheated. And that's a really good sign because we use the same kind of security protocol that we're going to use during the season this year in our qualifier. It's kind of like a test. We constantly warn them, and these are all new players that never played in the league before. We had 40 teams, 160 players. Nobody cheated. And last year we had much more problems with cheating. So I think we're on the right path.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, everyone, as I said earlier, you got to support this endeavor. It's not a chore. It's going to be awesome. So tune in and watch. I think everyone knows where to find you, Greg. Twitter, chess.com. So you guys know how to reach him. You even did like a Reddit thing I saw. Where I did a chess Reddit thing. Like you posted and said, you posted and solicited questions about the Pro Chess League.
Oh, that was for our website. Yeah, because I did a lot of work on this website, but if you don't actually talk to the fans, I worry that there's like obvious stuff we're leaving out. And they helped a lot. They gave me a lot of like obvious ideas that I just kind of didn't think about. some of which we'll be able to do, some of which we may not be able to, but that was super useful.
Cool. All right. Well, we're looking forward to it, Greg. We'll get someone in here at some point, one of the many chess.com people to give an update, like as the playoffs approach, if not sooner. I'm sure we'll have some players on as well. It's unavoidable. So yeah, exciting times.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me.
All right,
it's been
Greg.
Very exciting.
Thank you. To the godfather of perpetual chess, Greg Shahade.
Bye-bye.
Special shout out to my PayPal and Perpetual partners. I spend about 5 hours a week working on the show, and while I love doing it, it can be hard to find the time. Without these people, the show would not be possible. So, special thanks to Adrian Gutierrez, Alex Pejas, Chris Wainscott, Coach J's Chess Academy, Chris Flanagan, Garry Andrews, I am Greg Shahade, Jason Dunbar, Jennifer Valens, John Fernandez, WGM Jen Shahade, Jens Green, Johnny McMenamin, Kelly Palmer, Krishna Gopala Krishnan, Macaulay Peterson, Matthew Tedesco, GM Pascal Charbonneau, Paul Sweeney, Peter Lux, Ricky Grijalva, Rob Lazorchek, WGM Tatyeva Abrahamian, Tim Seymour, Todd Bryant, Victor Vrankulj, FM Zhao Cheng, and Zhivko Stoyanov. Thanks a lot, guys. I will catch you next week.